I like the little bounding box around my face on YouTube. I don't know what it is. Just too big when it's the whole damn screen. Hi, everybody. Hello. This is Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball. It's day 2 of the off season as we etch vertical lines into our prison cell wall. You can find me on Twitter at Dan Bespris, Old Man Squad on the Blue Sky Network, and Old Man Squad is actually also the Twitter feed of our network, which is growing. I had the delightful, not sarcastic, opportunity to get the great Adam King and the great Noah Rubin situated with how things are going to work here on YouTube. So their shows should be beginning to come out next week, I believe, is the sort of unofficial start time on those. That's extraordinarily exciting. What a great time to be an Old Man Squad Fantasy Sports member. And when I say member, I mean nothing at all, because everything we do is free. And the intention is to keep it that way forever. Yesterday, we talked about leagues where I got first place. I know. Cool. Good for you, Dan. But really, more about what we were able to learn from them. Today, we're going to talk about leagues where I got third place, or in a head-to-head league, ended in the semifinals. Effectively third place. First loser. Teach that to your kids. Roto League's third place pays. Pretty much all of them. I like to have my Roto League set up where fourth place gets buy-in back. Yeah, it's not quite as much for the first place team, but it keeps teams more engrossed until the very end. We really had like the top 9 teams duking it out, which is pretty good considering, head-to-head leagues, you don't get that. You might get the top 9 the week before the playoffs. So you got 9 teams competing on week 19. I got 9 teams competing on week 24. So suck an egg, detractors. Let's start today with my head-to-head league, where, again, my team ended in the semifinals. That's my team, the Taxman. You guys are going to see this one's a little bit more of a Beatles reference / Mark Twain. I think that was Mark Twain, right? I might be getting that quote wrong. Basically, a reference to the fact I used to have this is a team that I share with my cousin, and it's a home league largely with people that I know or my cousin knows, or for generally a pretty long time. Like Wicked Jump Shot, you can see right in the middle there. That's our old buddy Josh Millman. I'm trying to think of who else is floating around in this league. So the Taxman, which used to be a team named Dynasty when we won, I think, 2 or 3 seasons in a row. And then we changed the team name to Dynasty just to piss everybody off. Switched it back now. You guys don't care about that. Eliminated in the semifinals. Still mad about it. Lost 6-5 and I can go back to the matchups just to show you guys how upsetting it was. There it is. Lost 6-5 this week. It says that I was down 61 games to 62, but I think we all know that wasn't really the case because, and like the simple fact is, I only lost by 28 points, despite I didn't have Donovan Mitchell. He missed every game this week except for one. Keontae George missed every game except for one. Cam Thomas played the first, I think, 2 games and then missed the final 3. This is a 5-game week. Noah Clowney played the first 2 games, I think, and missed the final 3. Jeremy Grant didn't play the entire week. By the way, this is not including the 4 players I dropped that week that I also believe didn't play. And we can go back and I can look at my last transactions here because it ended at the end of that week. My 4 moves that week were, and I dropped Norman Powell, by the way, the week before, because I had a first-round bye, and I was like, well, this dude's not coming back. And he didn't, by the way. So Powell was kind of like my make that move at the last minute kind of thing. So I basically had 5 moves for this week. I could have even used more than that. I kind of did. I picked up, I got Deuce McBride in there, although they didn't have the world's greatest schedule. So I picked up Norman Powell. I put somebody in the injured slot and picked up Noah Clowney. That's 2 moves. Or dropped Norman Powell, I should say, and picked up Noah Clowney. That was move number 1. Kelly Olynyk was only playing half games that week, so I dropped him for TJ McConnell. Zach Collins was a great ad the previous week, but this was the week that Nikola Vucevic came back, so that was move number 3. Jeremy Grant didn't play the entire week, so that was move number 4. And then I had to drop Noah Clowney, who I had picked up, assuming he'd play at least 3 games out of 5 that week. And he played the first 2 and then got himself re-injured. So I used all 5 of my moves to drop guys that either were hurt or had their jobs taken and were effectively hurt. And I still couldn't do enough to get off the guys that were putting up zeros that week. Just painful level. Wait a minute. Let's get back to that last matchup here so you guys can all just enjoy it with me. Just a painful amount of games being missed by players that week. In fact, if I'm thinking back, I think Cade Cunningham might have missed a couple of games that week also. DeMar only 57 points. Did he miss a game that week, or was that just, I think he just had a slow week. These guys I picked up in the middle of the week, so that's nothing. Donovan Mitchell played 1 game that week. Scoot missed time that week. As we mentioned, Keontae missed the entire week. The young guy in Utah, that's supposed to be the dude who's playing. Of course, he came back and he played after that. But this right here, as you can see on your screen, right? You guys can see what I'm looking at right now. These 4 games, that was my semifinal week. He played the day before and he played the day after, and he missed the 4 games that would have mattered. If he played in 2 of those games, possibly even 1 if it was a big one, I'd have won my week. That was it. That's all it would have taken. And I know everybody has injuries. Everybody's got injuries. But you can look at my opponent and see who was in and who was out on his side. He basically had his dudes. Even LaMelo played that frickin' week. That dude didn't play ever. And look at the week he played. 10, 12, 14, 16. LaMelo played all 4 games that week. All 4. And he played 3 the rest of the season after that. Brutal. I think he lost Jaylen Brown for half the week. Oh, woe is me. Grumble. Grumble, grumble, grumble. So I used 5 moves to try to get off of injuries, and it was still 2 to 3 moves, not enough. Lesson to be learned. I get it. It sounds like I'm just ranting and raving here. Lesson to be learned from this league. I will tell you after I remind you to go to MyBookie and check out our buddies over at MyBookie. Yeah, the Masters and UFC 314 are done, but that doesn't mean that it's time to slow down. I don't want to tell you guys to just bet on everything. That's insanity. But I want you guys to find your edge. There's money to be made if you find your edge. Next golf tournament, if that's your jam, great. They got outrights, they got matchups, they got live betting on golf. I mean, it's obviously not the same as the Masters, as a major championship. Kudos, Rory. And I don't know if UFC is your thing, but look, you got other stuff. You got the NBA play-in tournament starting tonight. You got baseball rolling full tilt. You got hockey. You got draft stuff going on. And if you deposit any amount, $50 to $2,000, using our promo code MM50, no waiting, no betting to have to get it, just bonus cash in your account. You get a half deposit match on whatever you put in, $50 to $2,000. $50 up to $2,000. Put in $50, they'll give you $25. Put in $2,000, they'll give you $1,000. Anything in between there, you get a 50% deposit match bonus with promo code MM50. Check out our old buddies at MyBookie. They were our partners on this show from like 2017 to 2022. We had a long, great partnership with them. Very cool that they're back with us. Move your wagering over to MyBookie today with promo code MM50. Get that deposit match bonus when you're doing it as well. So the lesson, coming back around now to the league that I'm whining about, and I get it, I'm whining. I'm fully aware that I'm whining. But to come that close and basically need 7 moves just to get off my guys giving me zeros is soul crushing. There are 2 possible avenues to pursue to try to fix whatever it is that's going wrong here. Avenue number 1, end your season sooner. But we already ended this thing 3 weeks early. At that point, it's kind of hard for me to convince other people. I'm the commissioner of this league. And it's a super weird league. You can see it's 11 category. Field goals made, free throws made are the two additional ones. So it's a very volume-heavy league if you're looking at it like, Dan, I thought you told me never to draft Keyonte George. Yeah, but in this format, I was punting field goal percent and turnovers and basically rebounds as well because I went very guard heavy. Sometimes I might bungle my way into being competitive in blocks, but generally that didn't happen either. And you can punt a bunch of stuff in an 11 category league. Not the point. Point is, this league has been generally opposed to becoming more normal. I've multiple times said, hey, do we want more injured slots? No, we only have one. One. So, like, what the hell am I supposed to do with 8 injured guys? One slot. You got to drop them all. And it makes the regular season pretty damn hard also. My team was so good, man. My team was so good in this league. I thought I was going to cruise to the finals. I could have weathered 3, 4, possibly even 5 injured guys in this semifinal week, but not 7. Ah, well, still upset about it. Should have taken at least second place. Probably would have gotten beat by the first place team. He was very, very good. Other solution, let's assume your league doesn't want to end more than 3 weeks early because they all want to keep playing. They want their league to go on a little bit longer. And the closer you get to starting your playoffs right after the All-Star break, the harder it is to know exactly what players are going to do on their new teams. And, you know, you had rest and shutdown stuff. Some of these teams, Utah was resting / shutting people down for the last 4 months of the year. So, you know, the difference between 3 and 4 weeks really wouldn't have made that big of a difference. It was incredibly bad luck that even my young guys missed time on this specific week. But had my playoffs been the week before, it wouldn't have changed all that much. This was the semifinals anyway, so this wasn't even the 4th to last week of the regular season. This was a 5th to last. So it wasn't like I was getting crushed by rest days. Donovan Mitchell had like a groin thing, and Keyonte George had something, and just like guys had things. I had a really, really bad week. Worst time possible. The other solution, and the one that I think probably makes more sense, and the one that we can have a little bit more control over, is to avoid risk players. And, you know, there isn't, I can't tell you to avoid all of them because we can go back to my team's transactions that week. We can, again, see what I did there. But, like, Jeremy Grant, that was dumb. I know that he fit my build perfectly, which was a punt bigs build. And to have Jeremy Grant averaging, 15 points and 2.5 3-pointers and a steal and a block and good free throw shooting from the power forward spot, that was chef's kiss optimal for my team build. But he played 47 games. And there's so many years in a row that this BS has been going on. Basically, since he had his insane bubble run with Denver. That was a great year for Jeremy. And then he got paid. Scored 22 points a game in Detroit the next year. Missed only 18 games. I know. Wowzers. Year after that, he missed 25 with Detroit. He ended up in Portland the season after that. He missed only 19 games. That's kind of amazing. Then he missed 28. And this year he missed 35. Woof. Oh, actually, the year before that year in Detroit, he also missed 35. I said 25. It was 35. That wasn't the short year. Yikes. So, I mean, what the hell am I doing there? So, like, these are little things that, as perfect as a player might seem, you just have to be a little bit more aware of what you're getting yourself into. And I got myself into a mess with Utah. I had both Colin Sexton and Keyonte George. As it turned out, Sexton, of the two of them, was the guy who played that particular week. I could never have predicted that in 1,000 years. I thought for sure that it would have been Keyonte George. But Sexton played all 4 games that week. He was a turnover mess. He had 15 of them. And could I have won the week if I had just sat Colin Sexton? Possibly. I think what did I lose turnovers by? 13, 14? What was the final number there? 14? Oh, God. Well, we would have tied steals. So we would have, I think, tied on the week then. And it wouldn't have changed. Crap, I don't think it would have changed anything. Did he have 24 assists? Let's go back and no, he had 26 assists. All right, so I had to play Colin Sexton. I couldn't have saved myself in by benching him. But that's not the point. You're not like when you go into a week, you're not trying to split hairs like that. You're not trying to cut corners. You're going to play your guys. There's no way I would have just sat one random dude on my team who hadn't been that terrible in turnovers up until that week. But the issue there wasn't that Sexton played and Keyonte George didn't. It was that I had to hope that my Jazz would play. And what happened with Scoot Henderson that week? Did he miss a couple of games? Yeah, he missed a game that week. He had a huge game. 2 big ones to start the week. What is it, 42 points there for Scoot? 47? What? Did I just do some clunky math? Oh, right, yeah, because he played at the very end of the week. No, I guess he played. All right, never mind. Scoot played. He just wasn't very good in the 2 games after his big explosion game. But he's another example. Like Portland was a scary one. We got a little bit lucky if you had Blazers that some of those guys played to the finish line, but obviously Jeremy Grant did not. The Nets, trust in Brooklyn, like that was a team we knew was going to be tanking. I went Cam Thomas. But again, like he was going to be perfect for this build, and he just didn't play at all. How could I have avoided that mess? Maybe don't take guys on tanking teams. Roto, I don't care because they miss a week in Roto. Who gives a crap? Like even I still don't want Jeremy Grant because his 9-cat game sucks. But like, who's a better example on this particular roster? This is not a 9-cat team, but looking at guys that shut her down at some point, like even I guess Cam Thomas would be an example. Now, obviously, he missed almost the entire season with an actual real life bad injury. But if you expected him to miss 20 games and you could get him like in the 90s in Roto, for what he's good at, that would have been kind of fine. Or, Donovan Mitchell, who we're going to talk about in another league. I had Donovan Mitchell in a couple of spots. He wasn't that amazing this year, and there was an assumption that he would miss a handful of games at some point. But again, in Roto, you're not that worried about it. Head-to-head, frankly, I thought he'd play his way through but then they beat everybody and it didn't matter. So you got to look more, we could try to say, oh, you try to avoid the teams that are at the very, very top of the board. You try to avoid the teams that are at the very, very bottom. It's much easier to know who's going to be tanking in August than it is to know who's going to be 7 games up on the field with 3 weeks to go in March. All right, okay. So 18 minutes of Dan whining. Get to the point. The point is, let's dodge the dudes at the bottom. I know this is something that has been a sort of a hot topic as we've gotten into the load management era of the NBA, and everybody's like, oh, I'm never playing again because of rest days. It's the same every year. So it's on us to make the adjustments. It's not going to change magically. You can't just come back next year and be like, oh, yeah, it's going to be fine. And then it's going to be the same thing again. So my take is, and this is the rule that I have with my kids here, if you're going to bitch about something, you got to fix it. If you're not going to fix it, you can't complain. That's the rule. Complain all you want, but then do something about it. So our do something about it is I'm tweaking my strategy. And I did a little bit this last year in a lot of my leagues, but not this one apparently because I'm an idiot. And that is really get a strong feel for the teams are hard tanking. Because it's the one thing that I do think was worse this year. Teams like, the best example is Utah that just rested guys the whole year. We used to have the pre-tank. So first there was the tank, and then there was the pre-tank, teams that gave guys a couple weeks off in like October, November to just make sure that they didn't accidentally win some games early in the year. And now there's the full season, all the tank. And that's what Utah did. And like no one on Utah was safe this year. Not one guy. John Collins disappeared. We still don't know where he is. Walker Kessler missed a ton of time down the stretch. Keyonte George, who should be young enough to just play through all this. Nope. Jordan Clarkson, gone. Colin Sexton, probably the most durable of them somehow. But not enough of them missed games at the same time where a bunch of other guys popped up. So try to, if possible, and you can't eliminate, I mean, you can take 1, 2, 3 teams off the board. You can't take 7, 8, 9 teams off the board. I think we just need to be a little bit more strict with how we look at that, the tank, and who can we avoid. Next team I want to look at is a Roto team that finished in third place. This team was called Fish Sandwich. I hope you guys are enjoying the silliness that is my team names. Yesterday was all about, maybe I need to do more 90s references. This one is to the Ladies Man movie, which I don't know how many people actually saw that, but it was great. And there's a scene at the beginning where Leon Phelps, played by Tim Meadows, walks up to a lady at a bar and says, "Hey, sweet thing, can I buy you a fish sandwich?" And she says something like, "Let's get out of here." And he says, "So you don't want a fish sandwich?" And I still think that's hilarious every time I hear it. So I that's Fish Sandwich. Got third place, and I am thrilled about it. And when I show you my draft, you'll see why. Like, I had legitimately no business getting third place in this league. I had third pick. I went Luka. Look at this. Luka at 3, LaMelo at 22, Dame at 27, Kawhi at 46. Do I even need to say more of what happened in this draft? By the way, I also ended up with Bradley Beal and Herb Jones in this draft. Beal, who barely made it through the year. Herb Jones, who was going to be amazing because half the Pelicans were hurt, and then he got hurt for the entire season also. My first 4 picks in this league combined to miss more than 130 basketball games. Yeah. More than 30 apiece on average. And you're thinking, like, how is that possible? Luka missed 32. Dame only missed 24. He was the big winner among that thing. LaMelo Ball, who, like, he was terrible when he was playing down the stretch anyway, but he missed 35. And then Kawhi Leonard was the one where I was like, all right, well, this is like a calculated gamble that he's going to miss a bunch of time at the beginning, and then we'll get, 40 some odd, 50 some odd games. He gave me 37. And honestly, I'm not that upset about the Kawhi Leonard one, because 37 games, he ended up as a second rounder on a per game basis. That's including all that ramp up time. That one was okay in a games cap format, but like, if you're going top 4 picks and you're getting 60% of the games out of all of those guys, you should not be in the money in your league. But luckily for me, Jarrett Allen in the 5th round was a great pick. Ivica Zubac in the 7th was a great pick. Hartenstein in the 9th panned out very well. Norman Powell missed a bunch of time, but on a per game basis, he was a big winner in the 10th. Cam Johnson in the 11th was a nice win. Al Horford for the first couple of months in the 12th was a nice win. And so I had a lot of nice grabs from, 5 through 12 that kind of floated my team with superior per game production, even if the guys were hurt a little bit. And then as Zubac got his free throw stuff sorted out, he ended up top 30 per game. That's despite the bad foul shooting. I think, and I can triple check myself on this, I'm pretty sure that Ivica Zubac was a first rounder down the stretch. He was number 17 the last 2 months. Where was he the last 1 month? No, he's still number 18. So mid-second rounder for basically the second half of the season when he shot 75% at the free throw line instead of 55. That was the big difference there. So, and then if by totals, he was absolutely brilliant because he played in 80 out of their 82 games. So, Zubac was number 9 by totals, and a lot of those other late guys. Where was Jarrett Allen was number 14 by totals. So this team ended up with really good big man numbers because I had 2 really good big men who played basically every single game. And then Isaiah Hartenstein was another one, and Luka is a big rebounding guard. So you shouldn't be surprised to see that if I go back to the standings, my team was number 1 in rebounding. My team was number 3 in scoring, 1st in field goal percent, pretty good in steals because my big men were not big shot blocking types. Jarrett Allen, Ivica Zubac, those guys are not fly swatting. Hartenstein also better at steals. Pretty good at assists because, well, for the games that I was getting out of my lead guys, those guys were good assist dudes, and then you got some more out of the kind of mid dudes. And again, like guys like Norman Powell and Cam Johnson, they were able to help kind of float things in threes and points and free throw percent, was only able to survive this whole thing because Luka's not a great foul shooter, but he missed a bunch of games. So it kind of leveled itself out. And Dame was a first rounder on a per game basis that I got in the third. Luka was number 7, Dame was number 8 per game. So this team was the ultimate high risk, high reward club. A lot of per game winners. Dame was a per game winner. Norman Powell was a per game winner. Cam Johnson was a per game winner. Jared Allen, Ivica Zubac. All these guys were per game winners, but a lot of them missed a ton of playing time. So what should I have done differently in this draft? This one's a pretty easy one to size up. Number one, I don't know what the crap I'm doing going LaMelo Ball. I think I basically told you guys during drafts, I was like, there's no way I'm going LaMelo in the first or second round. My issue here was, frankly, I have no idea what the hell I was doing. I think everybody that I wanted had just come off the board. Booker went at 21. He was the guy that I was hoping to get where LaMelo was. And so then it was like, all right, am I going LaMelo Ball or am I kind of like reaching down the board a little bit? By the way, if you're wondering, and I'll flip this over so you can see it by round. Round 2, the guys that went off the board leading up to me were, Domantas Sabonis, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Devin Booker. The guys that were still on the board, Scotty Barnes, who I didn't really want this year, partially because I thought his blocks were a mirage last season, partially because of the tanking stuff, but that should have pushed me off of LaMelo. Chet Holmgren, who I thought was going too early in the second round. If you go to the third, Tyrese Maxey, I was worried about the addition of Paul George, although as it turned out, Joel Embiid missed the whole year, so Maxey had a big one. De'Aaron Fox, I was pretty worried about the addition of DeMar DeRozan. Dame, who I ended up getting in the third round anyway. Jalen Williams, that felt like it would have been very early to go Jalen Williams at pick 22. Or LeBron basically was like the only other one, maybe Jalen Johnson, that I had as even in consideration at that spot. So in my mind, I'm like, all right, well, I've got Luka. I can just punt turnovers now and go LaMelo. And that's what I did. And then he missed a ton of playing time. But the issue there was once I went LaMelo, and I shouldn't, and there's a little bit of a Luka Doncic, like made the finals hangover, injury-plagued following season thing that I probably could have gone Shea. I'm fairly certain I went Luka in this one because I went Shea in my other draft that had just happened like 2 hours earlier, and I somehow had the third pick in both of them. I was like, well, I'll kind of split my risk here, and I'll go Shea in one and Luka in the other because I like both of them at that spot. Obviously, one panned out better than the other. I wasn't treating Luka as a big injury risk. I was treating him as kind of like a small to medium, a medium injury guy. But so once I went LaMelo, the fourth round pick of Kawhi Leonard just could not happen. I loved the risk reward there, but it had to be someone who was hyper durable, super safe, super durable. Franz Wagner, who I would have thought was super safe, super durable, obviously missed some time, but not as much as Kawhi. But Franz, where did Franz finish this year? 38. He played in 60 games. He missed 22. Kawhi missed double that. So, like, you can check yourself on totals. How does that pan out? What was Franz by totals? 63. What was Kawhi by totals? 158. Obviously, Franz would have been better. I'm not a big Franz guy, so it probably wouldn't have been him. If I didn't go Kawhi there, it probably would have been Pascal Siakam or Jared Allen, who I ended up getting in the next round, or Darius Garland. Those are the guys. DeMar DeRozan was another player that I thought was pretty reasonable, like around pick 50, because that's effectively what this was. Pick 46 was Kawhi. There was nobody else that I wanted that was farther along than that. But the safe plays would have been Siakam, Jared Allen, DeMar DeRozan. Maybe you could say Darius Garland because we didn't know what a bounce back was going to look like for him. And all of those guys would have been, sadly, as much as I love the Kawhi Leonard upside, all of those guys would have been way better selections than Kawhi. DeMar finished at number 40 by totals. Siakam finished at number 34 by totals. Darius Garland finished at number 31. Hell, even Rudy Gobert finished at number 46, but I wouldn't have needed him, certainly not that early. But like all of these guys, you just, like the choice was so simple. And I did the dumb thing anyway. I did the dumb thing. I got blinded by first round upside, and I ignored the fact that I had already taken LaMelo Ball and Dame, who was actually relatively healthy this year until the blood clot. So I can't put too much on Dame. I'm not that mad at the Dame pick in the third. I actually think that was a pretty good one. I'm not that mad at Luka in the first. I am extremely mad at myself for doing LaMelo Ball after I specifically told you guys on preseason podcast that I wasn't taking him unless he fell to the third round, which I decidedly didn't do here. And then I'm mad at myself for Kawhi. That was stupid. And I probably should be a little bit mad at myself at Bradley Beal also. Although, again, at 70, I didn't think it was that bad of a choice. And one of my good buddies in this league, who I know listens to the podcast, took Walker Kessler right before me at that juncture. And Jordan Poole went right before him. Those are the two guys I was targeting there, and they were gone. And so then I'm kind of moved into the next chunk, which was like Beal, Michael Porter Jr., Ivica Zubac, who I got in the next round. Forget who else specifically I was looking at right around that spot. I don't think I was ready to do the Devin Vassell thing there. I don't think I was ready to go Josh Giddey, although he obviously finished the year extraordinarily well. Those were kind of the other choices there. So the Beal one is not quite as dumb. It's medium dumb when you consider that the backup plan there was Zubac, who I got anyway, and the backup plan to that was probably Michael Porter Jr., who, mind you, would have been a lot better than Bradley Beal because MPJ played in 77 out of 82 ball games, and from a per game standpoint, he was pretty close. But this was a situation where I just went way too heavy on risk. Too much. You can do one, you can maybe get away with two, but here I am going 3-4 risk players deep. What the hell? Let's do one more league where I got third place. And this one, this is an interesting one. This is another one of the public leagues where I just named the team after the players I took in the first and second round. I took Jason Tatum in the first round. I took Donovan Mitchell in the second. I had picks towards the end of the rounds. What did I say? Oh, seventh pick, I took Tatum. This is one where I didn't think I did actually that many things wrong. I just completely biffed the roto build and built a really nice head-to-head team. So Tatum in the first round, that's totally fine. Jason was good. He was number 13 per game. He was relatively durable. Like usual, he's number 10 by totals. Donovan Mitchell in the second round didn't pan out quite the same way. Only missed 11 games, though. He was pretty durable. Just didn't have quite the same per game upside as he had in previous seasons. Freddie VanVleet in the third round. I mean, the per game wasn't as good. It was the injury that really kind of screwed this one up. So I'm not obviously it wasn't good, but it was not team breaking if your third rounder is more like a sixth rounder. Jalen Williams, I got him in the fourth somehow. At this point, I'm like, oh my God, I really need a big man. But Jalen Williams is still there in the fourth round. That was a good pick. That was a winning pick. DeMar DeRozan at 55, that's another winning pick. Bradley Beal at 66, this is where I did something stupid. The Bradley Beal at 66 pick is, if we can look at this draft, my 6th and 8th round picks were the really stupid ones. Bradley Beal at 66, Colin Sexton at 90. It's not necessarily because that was a terrible spot to take them, but it was an absolutely terrible spot for my team to take them. Because I knew what my team was at this point. My team had Jason Tatum, who's a decent rebounding small forward, power forward. Donovan Mitchell, guard. Freddie VanVleet, guard. Jalen Williams, yeah, he ended up with center eligibility, but he's basically a small forward in the stats he's putting up. And DeMar DeRozan, small forward. I was going hard on guys I thought were either safe or value plays through those first 5 rounds, but it was very clear my team had a gaping hole in big man stats. Yes, it was good that, Freddie VanVleet was my terrible shooting guard. Donovan Mitchell, not an awful field goal percent. Jason Tatum, sort of fine there. Jalen Williams was going to be okay. DeMar was going to be okay. My team was extraordinarily weak in field goal percent, rebounding, and blocked shots, like straight big man stats. And sadly, not that great at assists. Because I had Freddie VanVleet, who was probably going to be, we figured, around 7. And then we had, Tatum, who was going to be like 4 or 5, and Spido, who was going to be like 5, and Jalen Williams, who was going to be like 4 or 5, and DeMar was going to be 4. So I had like a bunch of, I basically built a team of wings at this point. And now my turn comes up here in round 6, and I honestly don't know what the hell I was thinking. I think my only thought process was there was this big man run in round 5 where they all came off the board like they had been all draft season long. And I had the pick of the litter of all the guys I wanted in this next chunk of players. There was Beal still out there. Michael Porter Jr. was still out there if I wanted him. If I wanted to go to round 7, Walker Kessler was still out there. Ivica Zubac was still out there. I truly have no idea what the hell I was doing with this pick. I don't know. I really don't know. This was like the most obvious, like I've been playing fantasy basketball a long time. This is the most obvious, you got to get a big man. Even if you don't think you're getting a great steal at pick 66, you got to go get Kessler or Zubac. You got to do it. Or Jakob Poeltl, but I would have gone him 3rd. All of those guys were still out there. So was Brook Lopez, but I needed a big man, not a big man who blocked shots but didn't do the other big man stuff. I needed a high field goal percent, might hurt me a little bit in free throws, big man. And I doinked it. Now in round 7, all those guys were gone, except for Poeltl. So my choice basically became Jordan Poole, Zach LaVine, or Jakob Poeltl. And there, I was like, all right, I got to go upside one more time. I promised myself that in round 8, I would go get a big man, and I didn't do it again. What the hell? I don't know. I had this idiotic confidence that all the big men that I liked in the later rounds would get back to me. I thought Daniel Gafford or Onyeka Okongwu or Derek Lively or Isaiah Hartenstein, I thought some of those guys would get back to me. And Hartenstein did, but he was hurt. So then Okongwu and Gafford were both gone by the 9th round, because in the 8th round, like a complete moron, I went Colin Sexton, a pick that made no sense for my team and kind of a risky pick. A tanking guard who wasn't an assist first one. What am I doing? This draft got completely derailed by Bradley Beal and Colin Sexton. There was absolutely no universe where I shouldn't have taken big men in at least one, maybe both of those rounds. Now, in the 9th round, I'm left with a choice of injured Mark Williams, injured Isaiah Hartenstein, healthy Derek Lively, or healthy Clint Capella. That was it. Those were the only big men left. I'm scrolling the board just so you guys can see. Injured Kristaps Porzingis was the only other traditional big man floating around out there. You had Draymond Green, who, by the way, I ended up drafting. You had Naz Reid, who I considered drafting. But at that point, like, I had screwed the pooch so hard that I was like, I don't even think that there are enough big men left on the board to get me back into this thing. And there weren't, by the way. So I went Mark Williams in the 9th round and just prayed that he'd be back in the first 2 months of the season, which he sort of basically barely was. And he was very good for my team when I had him, but I needed more games played. There were none left by the 9th round. I screwed it so hard. And I had good picks after that. Draymond Green ended up being really good for this team, especially down the stretch. What did I get after that one? Well, Middleton was dumb, and Jonathan Isaac was dumb. But wait a minute. How did I end up with... Did I jump over a round? Thought I jumped over a round. I did not jump over a round. So midway through this season, I did swing a trade, and I moved somebody for Walker Kessler. Who the hell did I move for Walker Kessler? I don't remember. Somehow I ended up with Walker Kessler, which, was an effort to try to mitigate that, but it was too little too late because he was already into partial rest mode. So look at this final standings board. It is just not at all what I normally do, but this team would have been a great head-to-head team Because until I got Walker Kessler, I was second best in free throws, nearly at the top of the board in threes, points, assists, steals. I had mastered the guard stats, basically. My team was terrific at guard stats without any, like, one big guy that carried them in those things. My team ended up okay in blocks because some of my guards actually got some blocks. Jalen Williams got some, Freddie VanVleet got some, and then I added Walker Kessler partway through. But dead last in rebounds, second to the last in field goal percent. Unacceptably poor team building. The lesson from this team is clear as a bell. If you're playing a 9-cat roto league, and this would have been a hell of a head-to-head draft, if you're playing a 9-cat roto, you cannot punt multiple categories or someone's going to lap you. I could have, I didn't need to be great in blocks. Whoops, messed that up. Although, actually, that's an intriguing thing that I just did there, and I don't know how it showed up on the YouTube feed. I didn't need to be great in all three of those. I mean, blocks, I was sort of low mid-pack. My team, I could have cruised into second place if I had merely taken one more center. That's all it would have taken. And there was just no coming back from it. My team got so good in these other things that it didn't matter. And, health-wise, this team's health was not terrible. Freddie VanVleet and Bradley Beal were the guys that missed a bunch of games, but, Donovan Mitchell was mostly healthy, and Jalen Williams did miss a little bit of time towards the end of the year, but, all those guys basically missed about a dozen games. That's fine. Very survivable. I didn't get the all-upside team, that's for damn sure, but I got a pretty durable one. I just didn't get any big men. So, lesson learned. Pay attention to categories, to positions as you're drafting, and understand that you're going to get caught with your pants down sometimes, which I sort of did in this one, but there was still an opportunity for me to save it. I didn't have to get a big man in round 5. DeMar DeRozan was there. Miles Turner was already off the board. I believe Jared Allen was already off the board, right? Where the hell is Jared Allen? Where'd he go? Round 5. I'm staring right at him, I'm sure, and I'm just not seeing him. Did he go in the 3rd? What am I, an idiot? Where are you? 4th round somewhere? All right, I got to search for it. Where's Jared Allen? Oh, there he is. I'm looking right at him like a dummy. So Jared Allen was gone. Miles Turner was gone. Jalen Duren wasn't really one of my favorite targets, but he was gone. I didn't want Nick Claxton this early. Okay, I could have gone Vooch instead of DeRozan. That would have been fine. But I'm not that mad about the DeRozan pick in the 5th. It's that 6th round one where, a bunch of the centers that I thought were leapers this year, Walker Kessler, Ivica Zubac in particular, they were there, and I just didn't do it. And I still have no idea why. Looking back, it was the ultimate brain fart, and I salvaged 3rd place, but it should have been better because the rest of my draft was pretty good, across the board. And, not great. I didn't almost do anything great in this draft, but I did a lot of good stuff. And I'm good enough at Roto and good enough at strategy where a good draft across the board, I'm going to get top 3. All right, this show went longer than I planned on. Tomorrow, we're going to pivot into my losses. I almost count that last one as a loss because, that was so stupid. But we're going to look at my losing teams tomorrow because, the funny thing is that I actually think some of the drafts on my losing teams were better than that one, but durability is such a big deal. You got to get some games. Even in a games cap format, you cannot survive with your key guys missing 25, 30 games. And we'll talk more about that tomorrow. I'm Dan Besbris. Thanks for watching. Yeah, hit subscribe if you happen to be looking for fantasy content in the offseason. Amazing stuff coming next week from all of our different content creators here at Old Man Squad. I'll see you tomorrow with more.